Well, the Second Amendment has been interpreted wrong by the Supreme Court, in my opinion. I mean, it doesn't say that people should have, until 2008, it didn't say that. Nobody thought that people should have a personal right to guns till the Heller case.
This is Pete Dominick, and in his debate with Joe Rogan, he's out here saying the Second Amendment is basically misunderstood, that the whole we can have guns thing didn't even exist until 2008. And honestly, it's just entertaining to watch how he tries to make it sound so deep, like it's this super complicated thing nobody can understand.
So I don't think you even need to talk about the Second Amendment. I think just people just need to agree that these guns shouldn't be sold.
Well,
the
you
ammunition.
need to talk about the Second Amendment. I mean, it's a big conversation.
No, because people can have guns. You can have guns. The brick has a right to have guns. You just can't have these guns anymore. No more of those ones. You can have all these guns.
Regional restrictions anywhere, right? Like
and they
in New
work.
York City, you can't have a handgun.
Yeah, they work.
Right?
You can't even. I don't think you can have you can have a switchblade in New York City. Yeah, Cyrus Vance, the DA there, is like terrified that they're changing. The federal government is changing the law because he knows that those gun laws in New York work really well. And by the way, people always make the argument, well, they have those gun laws in Chicago and there's a ton of violence. That's because Chicago's on the border of Indiana. It doesn't have them. Guns go across the border just fine.
Honestly, that's a weak argument. You can't just blame Indiana for everything when the city itself is drowning in crime, despite already having some of the toughest laws on the books. If that's the case, then New York borders Pennsylvania and Vermont, both states with much looser gun laws. By Pete's reasoning, New York should be flooded with the same problems. That actually proves Joe's point. Criminals don't care about laws. They'll find a way, whether it's Indiana, Mexico, or the black market. The only people affected are the law-abiding citizens who get their rights stripped away. But he conveniently ignores that part.
That's the gun laws work. They work.
Well, Chicago is also in the middle of a bitter drug war.
Well, yeah, I mean that's where the violence is coming from. But people should have less accessibility to those types of guns, like every other civil society in the world. Come on, this is like.
But it goes back to what you were talking about before, like that drugs, if they were legal, you wouldn't have that sort of a drug war.
Right, for sure, it's the root of most of the violence in the inner cities, and obviously in Mexico. Yeah, it's black markets. It's the illicit drug. Yeah, they're making tons of money on that. But the Supreme Court didn't decide until 2008 that Americans had a right to have their own weapon.
That's such a crazy statement. Like when you read it, it's so interesting because we're going back in time, trying to figure out how people in 1776 thought about guns and whether or not that applies to us. Because if it doesn't apply to us, we have to think on 1789. If it doesn't apply to us, we have to think, well, then who gets to decide? Like one of the reasons
we get to decide as a society on any of these things.
One of the reasons why it's so interesting.
Is what I want to believe.
One of the reasons why it's so interesting to read these things is like we have, for whatever reason, when things get written into stone or carved into a stone or written onto a document, like the First Amendment, like the freedom of expression, we have it. So we all agree on it.
Freedom of speech.
We don't want to change it. Freedom of speech. Freedom of expression, whatever. We want to hold on to that. We want to keep it.
Sure.
Like this is our law.
All humans do.
And the Second Amendment, the right to have a gun. That's our law. We got it written down. Look, it's written there. So they'll study these ancient words like scrolls. Like they go over these scrolls and look at the commas and look at the words.
Yeah.
Shall not be infringed upon. What did they mean? That's fascinating. It
is fascinating, but I think that they didn't mean this, Joe. I think that
how could they? They didn't know what this is.
They didn't. And the whole gun thing is a racket to make money. That's what that is. It's a way you sell fear. Like home invasion is any family's worst fear. But it doesn't happen very much, nor does kidnapping, nor do a lot of these crimes that our generation of parents is helicopter parents terrified of everything, not...
That's such a shallow way to look at it. First of all, it's not about how often something happens. It's about being prepared if it does. Fires don't happen in every house, but you still keep a fire extinguisher. Car crashes don't happen every day, but you still wear a seatbelt. You don't wait for disaster to hit before you get protection. And second, people aren't buying guns because they saw a scary commercial. They're buying them because they want to take responsibility for their own safety. Joe Rogan always makes this point. It's not about living in fear, it's about being capable. Having the means to protect your family if something goes wrong is the opposite of fear.
But you're generalizing because home invasions do happen sometimes.
Right, but
People
that's
do
not how
get
we should
kidnapped
make
sometimes.
laws.
But we don't have to exist like everybody's going to kidnap your kid or everyone's going to break into your home.
But I'm saying those kind
the
of
balance is that sometimes it's real. That's why people want to be able to have guns, because sometimes someone can break in your house, and people have defended their house and their property with guns.
Sure, but is it a realistic threat, or is it something that the gun industry creates these amazing ads and scares the shit out of people?
He just keeps going on with, ooh, it's the arms industry selling us fear. They're making you paranoid just to make money. But I love how Joe just shuts him up.
Oh, come on, man. Crime is real. You know, whether they
crime
make
is real,
ads or
it's
not,
certainly
crime
real.
is still real.
I think the clear point is the reason why we have so many guns in America is because there's so much money to be made off of them. I think we could absolutely limit them and regulate them and have a thoughtful conversation. I think that's where most people are at, although I hate that generalization.
There's something to that, but there's also something to the reason why we have so many cars.
At this point, the whole debate is about to turn into a comedy show. Pete's been going on and on about why we should basically get rid of all the guns, and now he's about to tell us why we should get rid of cars. Yes, literally.
People like them.
I'll have that conversation.
People
We should
like
get rid of
them.
all the cars.
Okay.
Well, I mean, we're not. Don't get me
That seems
wrong.
ridiculous. Why should we get rid of all the cars? Do you not like freedom, or do you have a better solution? Are you going to?
I don't have a better solution, but if there should be one, or I think that we are killing ourselves with all the cars. The pollution is
Okay, but you can
make
get an
them
electric
electric.
car.
Yeah, then that's fine. I think that would be fine. If they were, I have a Chevy Volt since 2012. I have solar panels. I'm trying to be the change I want to see in the world. If I'm coming off as I'm a complete hypocrite on all of it.
At least he admits he's being a hypocrite. He says we should get rid of cars because they're polluting the planet, but then he doesn't actually offer any real solution or alternative. It's just another one of those ban it and hope for the best takes. And that's what makes it funny. He spends half the debate telling us why people shouldn't have guns, and then suddenly flips into this anti-car rant, but can't explain what we're supposed to do instead.
I eat meat and I do all kinds of things. I think having a thoughtful conversation about guns and why they're a huge part of our culture and not another culture, the way that other cultures and countries regulate their weapons, the problems that they have, are problems. Sure, we should talk about mental health. But the problem with that conversation that people don't want to have is everything costs money. That's why you have to pay taxes. Paying taxes is the price of civilization.
This guy is pressing every button he can find. Now he's off talking about healthcare, mental health, and all sorts of things that barely connect to the actual debate. And of course, he can't resist getting political about it. Like somehow, if we just fix healthcare, all gun violence magically disappears.
What does that have to do with mental health?
You have to pay for people to help people.
Right.
You can't advocate in government, Republican or Democrat, for this is what, unfortunately, Trump and Republicans have advocated. Let's get mental health solutions to the violence. Let's do that. And everybody's behind that, except they cut the Obamacare programs that funded mental health. It's just, you have to spend the money.
It's hilarious because it shows how extreme his argument gets when you follow it through. By that reasoning, anything dangerous should just be banned. Cars, knives, ladders, you name it. But Joe doesn't even have to say much here because Pete's argument ends up collapsing under its own weight. It's the classic case of trying to sound deep, but actually making no sense. If you want to see more breakdowns like this, make sure to subscribe to our channel. We've got plenty more debates and takedowns coming your way.